Mr. Murphy, the so-called journey to work in the 21st century can sometimes mean going to a home office. Communication by way of electronic means is as important to our economic development's future as other parts of the infrastructure. Is Congress doing enough to assist in seeing that high-speed internet service is made available universally around the nation? And if not, what steps should Congress be taking?
I think this question dovetails on the last. I think you start with the premise that telecommunications and broadband extension is done best through the private sector. But there are going to be gaps in that private network, and we see them right here in the state of Connecticut. We have a rather large gap in broadband access in northwestern Connecticut. Now, that presents a real challenge to our district because for those individuals in northwestern Connecticut that want to telecommute, it's very difficult to do so. And so what happens? Many of them who have jobs in Hartford end up clogging our roadways. One of the main arteries runs right through this region, Route 4. Others are clogging up the roadways heading into New York, further congesting roads that are used by Connecticut consumers. And so while an investment in broadband technology in northwestern Connecticut may not seem on its face an investment in the Farmington Valley, by removing potentially hundreds, if not thousands, of commuters from the roads that run through this area, we're helping the entire region as well. The Recovery Act passed by Congress included $7.2 billion in federal investment in broadband. And just about a month ago, it was announced that on the first round of grants, Connecticut will receive $93 million of that, which will go to about 600 different centers, connecting them into a broadband network, much of it going to eastern Connecticut and northwestern Connecticut. Now, that's important because it assists in allowing people to telecommute, taking people off of the roads, and growing Connecticut's ability to connect into those major economic centers. But it also creates jobs. That broadband extension, which will begin occurring at the beginning of next year, will create 1,200 jobs for this state as we lay down that fiber optic and high-tech cable, and we outfit schools and public safety institutions and colleges throughout the district and throughout the state with that capability. So in this instance, it, I think, is an appropriate use of federal resources to fill in the gaps of private investment. And at this moment, it's incredibly important because it's creating jobs when we need them most.
Okay, 2 minutes for Mr. Caligiuri.
What I would do is make sure, as I alluded to earlier, that telecommunications and broadband infrastructure improvements are included as part of the next transportation bill. And what I would like to see the next transportation bill include is robust tax credits for private industry to incentivize the development of broadband and telecommunications technology in areas that are currently underserved. I also think that the Universal Service Fund, which is assessed right now on the industry, is a useful way for the industry to have the resources they need to build out broadband infrastructure in rural areas that are currently underserved. But as a general approach, I would always prefer to use tax policy, tax incentives, as a way of incentivizing private development instead of using tax dollars to subsidize it more directly. And that's how I would like to use tax policy to encourage that development wherever possible.
What should be done, if anything, by the federal government to reduce our use of and dependence on fossil fuels?
Very important question, and it's part of having a comprehensive energy strategy. The reality is we need to continue to use the domestically available energy sources that we have. But I think we need to expand that as much as we can, in part, so that we can use the royalties from our access to those domestically available resources to fund research and development in alternative fuels, alternative sources of energy. So I want to see us move away from the use of fossil fuels as much as we can. But the only way, in my judgment, we're going to be able to do it is by creating economic incentive for research and development and the alternatives of those, the development and the creation of those alternative energy sources that will ultimately be part of a comprehensive strategy to move us away as much as is realistic from the use of fossil fuels. But again, I would use tax credits, tax incentives as an inducement to that type of research and development and creativity.
Mr. Murphy, 2 minutes.
I think at the outset it's important to talk about why this is such a critical imperative to make this country energy independent. First and foremost, I do think it's about job creation. The rest of the world is eating our lunch with respect to green jobs. We now have only one of the top 10 wind companies in the world, only one of the top 10 solar companies, two of the top 10 advanced battery companies. There is the potential for millions of jobs in renewable and clean energy if we make the proper investments up front. Second, as I mentioned before, it's about national security. We simply shouldn't be chasing our oil dollars around the globe with our military and foreign aid dollars. And third, it's about controlling our own economic destiny moving forward. We shouldn't be yo-yoed around by petro-dictators who run international oil cartels with respect to oil prices. We should set them here. Now, I believe that we need to be aggressive. I don't think we can wait any longer, and I don't believe that you can just do this through a tax credit here or a tax incentive here. I do support setting an overall cap on carbon emissions and then allowing the market to decide what technologies win and what technologies lose. I worry that if we do this just through tax incentives, then it puts the government in the position of choosing which technologies to give tax credits to and which ones not to. If you put a cap on overall emissions and then make the energy distribution companies responsible for choosing whether to invest in this technology or that technology or energy or in energy efficiency, we, I think, distribute our resources much more wisely. I think that's the best way to move forward, but I think it's something that we can't wait any longer on, and I think it's something that we can't do just by nibbling around the edges. We've got to have a robust, comprehensive, and immediate strategy to make this country energy independent within the next 20 years.